The Fair Contracting Foundation, with Mike Wild and his team, have been able to recover tens of thousands of dollars for the workers of this state on projects where they should have been paid the prevailing wage all along.
Minnesota has a pretty good wage standards in the construction industry, but oftentimes we'll see contractors come in from other states or even far away, other regions in the part of the country, and import their lower wage standards, their lower quality standards sometimes, and sometimes their lower safety standards as well, to build our infrastructure at their wage rates on the Minnesota taxpayer's dollar. And we don't want that, so we enforce our standards.
The state of Minnesota requires that prevailing wages be paid to workers who are performing construction projects that are financed at least in part by the state. And so what that means is when a contractor bids on public work, they're going to build a state office building, for example. All the workers on that project have to be paid at least the prevailing wage rate that's certified by the state.
We found over the years that even though there's laws on the books, contractors were getting on some of these jobs that were prevailing wage and paying their workers substandard wages.
And one of the things that our management partner and now our employee partners have been able to do is support an organization that is able to solely focus on prevailing wage. They are able to go out, dedicate the time that unfortunately state employees aren't able to do just due to lack of resources. So Fair Contracting Foundation goes out, finds evidence of a prevailing wage violation or is able to educate people, another aspect the state isn't able to do, and come back and present that information right to the state, and wrap it up in a bow.
We have been around for 4.5 years. The first week on the job, I had a desk and a phone, but we worked with the people in the field, and we saw a western suburb elementary school being built for cash under the table, far below the wage standards. And that was on a public school. And when we brought it to the attention of the people that would enforce that contract, the contractor picked up all the equipment and left in the middle of the night. We had a contractor who worked on a military project here in the state of Minnesota, who had bragged to people that the prevailing wage wasn't an issue and paid them less than half of the prevailing wage standard. And we shared that with the state, and that contractor ended up paying some penalties and paying what he should have owed. There's a lot of examples like that. There's some low-income housing being built just this winter, and a notorious and repeat offender has hired a 15-year-old to do some of the painting and then proceeded to refuse to pay him week in and week out. A lot of money. An underage worker on a construction project. That's being investigated right now, and we're tracking that closely. The first full year out of the chute, we recovered about $250,000. We're closing in on $1 million worth of recovery. Not quite there. But it's not just the dollars, it's also having visibility. We could recover $0, but if we were out there and working as a deterrent on behalf of the industry and the workers too, that's a good thing.
We put all of the contractors on a level playing field, whether they're union or non-union, because they're paying the same wage to those workers across the board.
This is a career for our individuals. We want to be able to pay them a wage that gives them a good standard of living and allows them to continue doing their job and provide for a retirement in their later years.
They have some competitors who look for who can do this type of work for the cheapest. They look to get the bid low, get it done, hopefully avoid headaches, and move on. That's not the good model. That's the kind of model that oftentimes leads to what we call wage theft. Maybe they don't think the worker is worth X amount of money, even though the law requires it. Then they shouldn't be on the job. Maybe they don't think they need to comply because no one's watching, so we try to watch. So in the construction industry, we think it's been beneficial to have an industry watchdog. It would be, I think, effective if other industries replicated it. I don't have expertise in those industries, but if they could say that exploitation is not going to be one of the pillars of our commerce, that would be fantastic. But as long as we're always looking for cheaper, as long as we're ready to go lower and lower and lower, and somebody will do it, it's going to continue.